Hello, I'm Mike and welcome to the part of my channel where I chat about the physics degree, about questions that I had when I was doing mine, and questions that maybe people have asked me from time to time. And this time I'd like to talk about a year in industry, which is one of the options that sometimes comes up when you're picking a degree. And it's something that I considered but in the end opted against, so I want to just chat a bit about what it is and why it might be something for you. So basically what happens is this. You have your basic physics degree, 3 years for a bachelor's, 4 years for a master's, that sort of thing. And you add a year, usually between the second from last year and the final year, where you go into industry, into the world of work, do a job for some company, reporting back to the university on what you've done. So that would make it 4-year course for your bachelor's, 5-year for your master's, one of those years working in industry. Now, the thought process that went through my mind for this is, what are the advantages? Well, you have now a year experience due to your degree in work. When it comes to applying for jobs, that can be something that's useful. You've got this proven sort of track record of being in a job. And because it's a year in work, if you're going out of physics and looking for a job, then that's something that employers might value. And I think they do. I think they do really value that you've had a year in industry over someone who had just went and done a physics degree, because you have the practical skills. You know you can do that. I mean, it's something to put on your CV. If you can say, well, I did a year working for this company and I got this out of it, that's really useful. And it's also that, especially, unless you have some incredibly good contacts, while you will have done some work outside of doing your degree, like you'll have done some part-time work during A-levels, maybe some summer work, it's unlikely to be in the field of physics. And I say, unless you've got very good contacts, it's hard to do that. Now, the year in industry then really fixes that. It gives you, here's a decent amount of time doing a job which is in a subject, in an area which physicists would value. But you've got a massive advantage there. It's also that you have now experience looking for that job. I mean, you'll have gone out of your degree with a much better idea of what sort of jobs are on the table than if you just went out through after a straight degree, because you will have had to look over them while you were finding that job. You'll have had a year to work out, here's what I've gone into, is this something that I want to do? You may even, if you do really well at it, although this can be quite rare, if you do really well at it, you may even end up looking at hiring for the company that you did your year in industry by. So that's the sort of advantages of it. As for the disadvantages, well, it is an extra year, let's remember that. I mean, that's an extra year that you could be doing something else. If you get out of your degree, if you just do straight 3-year BSc, you've got an extra year to get industry experience by getting a job. I mean, there's some differences between that and that, but that extra year can be used for something else, and perhaps someone who did a BSc and then went for getting their first job straight away might have done better out of it. Also, if you want to go into research, or if you are considering going into research, it's useful to get a master's, because you generally need that to go to the if you want to get a PhD, if you want to go into university research, you generally need a master's, and that extra year really starts to add up. You've now got a 5-year course to get a master's out of it. So if you're looking to do that, then maybe a year in the industry is not the thing that you would consider. But then again, if you're considering doing a year in industry, then you're probably doing that because you want to go into the world of work straight away. So, who knows? I mean, that might work out. But that's sort of the very basic advantages and disadvantages of it. I mean, I say in the end I chose against. I said, well, I'll use those 4 years to do a master's, and that worked out for me. But it is a very reasonable idea to say I'm going to get a year working. And you're also, remember, you're working, but you're also reporting back to your university, so it's not like this is just working for the company. You are also doing things for the university to demonstrate what you've learned here. As for things to consider when you're doing a year in industry, the first thing is, because there's a year gap between your penultimate year and your final year, you really need to think about what you're going to do with your final year courses and what the prerequisites for those are, because there's a year of forgetfulness in between, which there isn't if you're just going bish bash bosh straight on to the next year. I mean, you forget stuff over the long summer, but a year of forgetting how to do things can be a big hit. It doesn't put you off doing it, but it's something you have to consider. Like, how am I going to make sure I don't mess up on my final year courses because I've had a year gap that other people haven't? How am I keeping up with just remembering the basics of physics when I'm going off into an industry which may be very specific? It's also worth thinking, if you're looking at this year in industry to sort of work out what area of physics you want to do you want to try and look for courses that match that area of industry? So let's say I get a job in something related to sort of nuclear physics, say. I mean, probably not running a reactor or anything dangerous, but you get a job related to some company that is researching something vaguely related to nuclear physics. Do you then do a whole load of courses in that area, really push down it, or do you use your year in industry to go one way, but use the other parts of your degree, the courses that you take, to expand your horizons, to study a broader area of physics? And it's an interesting sort of conundrum. How would you best want to deal with that? And yeah, it's worth thinking about, but it's not like, this is not killer. This is not stuff that I'm saying to put you off doing it. It's just what you might want to think about. Anyway, that was the year in industry, and that's about all I have to say on that. That was the thought process that went through my mind. Anyway, thank you for listening, and goodbye.